have you done / do different in terms of prepping for an interview when you first started to now?
It just depends. I know he's not on the mic, but when it comes to prepping interviews, it depends. Sometimes if I'm a fan of somebody, for the most part, I'll just go in. If I'm like a real big fan of somebody, I won't do much preparing. I'll just kind of go in and just free ball it. You know, that's kind of
because you go from the heart. You go from the
yeah. I mean, if it's somebody who I'm like not too familiar with, I'll do some light prep. You know, try to find a few like things I can kind of. My whole thing is to try to, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, and I might not necessarily know the most about them, because I interview a ton of artists. Try to kind of shoot the shit with them until we get some sort of common ground that we can kind of relate with, and then it's more about it being a conversation than it is a podcast or an interview rather. But yeah, it just depends. Like, if there's someone who I know is really really big, but I might not necessarily be the biggest fan of them, then I'll be like, okay, I got to make sure like I really at least kind of watch a couple of interviews, make sure I kind of know a few key things to hit, because it's a big opportunity for me. I went to NBA Youngboy's house in Utah, and he's one of the biggest rappers of the last 10 years, and he's on house arrest, so I had to go to his house in Utah. And I was like, okay, let me actually, I mean, I know surface level stuff about the guy, so I try to kind of dig in a little bit more, learn some more stuff about him. And then him and I ended up just having like a fucking humanizing conversation, because he's got so much lore around him, and he's in prison right now, actually. But I think I was the first time. People say I have the best interview he's ever done. It was like the most humanizing interview he's ever done, where we didn't necessarily talk about all his beef and the killing and all that other crazy shit, that he's seen in his life. It was more like trying to get to know him as like a dude, So yeah, it just depends. I would say from back in the day to now, I try to make sure I do some sort of prep, but I don't ever really prepare anything. I try to shoot from the hip in most of my interviews. And then sometimes that backfires, because then after the interview, I'm like, fuck, I fucking meant to, I meant to bring that shit up. Fuck. So it can happen, but for the most part, I shoot from the hip. I've never like read questions or anything. I don't have any questions prepared ever. It's always like, if I have something prepared, it might be some bullet points.
Yeah.
I've only done that a few times. Like, for example, like with Ice Cube, I'm a huge Ice Cube fan. But I've been preparing for that interview for so long, because I was like, damn, this might be the only time I ever get to like have a one-on-one with Cube. So I put bullet points down of shit I wanted to make sure I brought up. Like, okay, I definitely want to make sure I ask him about this. And if I don't write it down, I might forget during the interview. So with like Cube, I had like bullet points of like specific lyrics and songs that I was like, damn, I want to know what he meant when he said this, or what happened with this and this. And so I had some bullet points for Ice Cube. Snoop Dogg, it was all just shooting from the hip, I fucking love Snoop. He's Snoop, So
can't go wrong, right?
It's all different. Yeah, it's all different. I would say for the most part, I'm freestyling, I'll have some bullet points sometimes of stuff. If it's like, okay, I got to remember to bring this up. Sometimes the record label will give me like a one sheet of, if they bring an artist in, they'll give me a one sheet of info. I'll take a quick glance at it. All right, where they from? Who they worked with, type shit. But there's never really like a one size fits all type of approach to when I do interviews and how I prepare. So
that's good.